children. Today we are going to see about Unit 5, Lesson 11, Biodiversity and its Conservation. So, in this lesson we are going to see the 2 and 3 marks today. So, first question is define biodiversity according to the UN Earth Summit. What is biodiversity and how they have defined that one by the United Nations of Earth Summit, where how they have defined that one we have to write it. So in 1992, the UN Earth Summit defined biodiversity as the variability among the living organisms from all resources, including terrestrial, marine and other aquatic ecosystems and the ecological complexes of which they are a part. So this includes diversity within species, between species and ecosystems of a region. So these are the 2 points you have to write for this question. Then question number 2, what are the 3 levels of biodiversity? So the 3 levels of biodiversity are genetic diversity, species diversity and community or ecosystem diversity. So these are the 3 points you have to write. Then third question, define genetic diversity. So genetic diversity refers to the differences in genetic makeup, that is number and types of genes between distinct species and to the genetic variation within a single species. And it also covers genetic variation between distinct populations of the same species. So genetic makeup in the sense how many number of genes are there and how many types of genes are there, that is any polytene chromosomes are there or any number of chromosomes, how many are there, that we have to define in the genetic diversity. Then question number 4, what does species richness means? So the number of species per unit area at a specific time is called as species richness, and which denotes the measure of species diversity. So it is number of species per unit area at a specific time. So at a particular time, how many number of species are there if you take in a unit area. So that is called as the species richness. So this will tell you how many species are there in that one. Diversity in the sense how many types of species are there in that area. So that is called as the species richness. Then question number 5, how does variation of genes cause increase of a species? So how variation in the genes will increase the number of species? That is a question. So variation of genes of a species increases with the diversity in size and habitat. So how much big the size is and what is the type of habitat, whether it is a terrestrial, aquatic or it is arboreal. So we have different types of habitat. So based on that habitat and how much big the habitat is for an organism, so based on that the number of species will be increasing and you will be having more number of species in that particular habitat. So it results in the formation of different races, varieties and subspecies. Then question number 6, name the active chemical found in the medicinal plant Rauwolfia vomitoria. What type of diversity it belongs to? So we have a plant called as Rauwolfia vomitoria. So it is producing a chemical or a medicine. So what is that one and to which diversity that organism belongs? So that is the Rasparin is an active chemical which is found in Rauwolfia vomitoria. So it belongs to the genetic diversity. So genetic diversity helps to develop adaptations. That means they can adapt more abundantly. If they adapt to that climate, then they can grow vigorously. If they are not adapting, they will die in that particular environment. So that is why genetic diversity is very, very important. Then question number 7, define species diversity. So species diversity refers to the variety in number and richness of the species in any habitat. An example is the Western Ghats have greater amphibian species diversity than the Eastern Ghats. So when we compare the number of amphibian species, so Western Ghats have more organisms than the Eastern Ghats. So that is called as the species diversity. And question number 8, define community or ecosystem diversity. So ecosystem or community diversity is a variety of habitats, biotic communities and ecological processes in the biosphere. So in India, with its alpine meadows, rainforests, mangroves, coral reefs, grasslands and deserts has one of the greatest ecosystem diversity on the earth. So if you take in our country, India, we have all these types, that is alpine meadows are there, then rainforests also we have, and we have mangroves also, and coral reefs also we have, and grasslands we have, and we have a desert also, that is a Thar desert. All these, so we have variety of climate ecosystems in our single subcontinent of India. So that is why we have a great ecosystem diversity on the earth. Then question number 9. India is a very rich in terms of biological diversity, justified. So we have a rich diversity. So how can you tell that we have a rich diversity? So for that we have to write the answer is India is very rich in terms of biological diversity due to its unique biogeographical location and diversity of climatic conditions, enormous ecodiversity and geodiversity. So these are the 4 points you have to write. Then question number 10. Mention the major realms and the 3 biomes of India according to World Biogeographic Classification. So India represents 2 of the major realms, that is we have 2 realms in our India. So these are Palearctic and Indo-Malayan realms we have, and we have 3 types of biomes, that is tropical humid forest, tropical dry deciduous forest, and warm deserts and semi-deserts. So these are the 3 biomes we have. So if you write these 5 subheadings, you will be getting full marks. The 11th question, enumerate the significance of biodiversity. So what is the role of biodiversity and how it is important for us, that we have to write. So it provides an index of health of an ecosystem, and the survival of human race depends on the existence and well-being of all the life forms like plants and animals in the biosphere. So we depend on the other life forms like plants and animals, but they are not dependent on us, but we are dependent on them. Keep those things in a proper condition. We have to save them, so then only we can have a good biodiversity. Then question number 12, how genetic diversity has been useful. So genetic diversity helps in developing adaptation to changing environmental conditions. So when genetic diversity is nothing but the genes are adapting to the changing environment, so the organism is able to survive in that particular environment. So that is called as the genetic diversity. Then question number 13, who introduced the term biodiversity and who popularized this term and why did he do so? So the term biodiversity was first introduced by Walter Rosen in 1986, and Edward Wilson popularized the term biodiversity to describe diversity at all levels of biological organization, from populations to biomes. So that is why he popularized this biodiversity term. Then question number 14, define taxonomic impediment. So the lack of knowledge of exact magnitude, that is number of species in a region at a given time of our natural wealth, is known as taxonomic impediment. So how many, that means how many organisms are there in a particular area that we don't know. So that lack of knowledge is called as impediment. And the current estimate of different species on the earth are about 8 to 9 million we have. Then question number 15, what are some of the factors that determine biodiversity distribution patterns? So first one is temperature, second one precipitation, third one latitudinal gradient, that is distance from the equator, and altitudinal gradient, that is altitude from the sea level. That means what are the factors, means how the temperature changes the organism. So if you have cold temperatures, then you have less organisms in that place. If you have warmer temperatures, you have more number of organisms living in that particular area. And precipitation means how the rainfall is coming in that particular area, that also we have. And latitudinal gradient means, so in which latitude they are there, whether they are in the northern latitude or the southernmost latitude, that is towards the poles, or they are towards the equator, or they are in the Tropic of Cancer or Tropic of Capricorn. So these are the latitude, main latitudes. So based on that latitudinal distance from the equator, you have the division of or spreading of the organisms in the diversity. And altitudinal gradient means how high the land is above the sea level. So that also matters. So if you have higher altitudes, then the climate is very cold, and if it's towards, it is equivalent to the sea level like coastal regions, so at that place you will be having a warmer climate there. So at warmer climates you will be having more organisms living in that, and higher climates will be having less organisms living in that place. Then question number 16, what is meant by MSL and why is it written on the signboards of railway stations? So MSL means the mean sea level and is an average level of the surface of one or more of the Earth's oceans or seas, from which heights such as elevations may be measured. Example is the E Road junction is about 171 meters above MSL, that is above the sea level it is nearly 117 meters. Then question number 17, how is it evident that the latitude increases the species diversity? So as the latitude increases, how the species diversity also increases, that we have to show an evidence. So for that, diversity increases as one moves towards the temperate zones and reaches the maximum at the tropics. So diversity is more in, that is it will be increasing from temperate zones to tropic zones. Thus tropics harbor more biodiversity than temperate or polar regions. So especially between the latitudes of 23.5 degrees north and 23.5 degrees south, that is the Tropic of Cancer to Tropic of Capricorn, that is between these regions you will be having more number of organisms rather than the towards the poles. So above the Tropic of Cancer to the North Pole you have less number of organisms, and in the southern side you have from the Tropic of Capricorn to the southern pole you have less number of organisms. So you have more number of organisms between these two latitudinal ranges. Then question number 18, what is frugivorous means? So fruit eating birds and mammals are called as frugivorous. Example is fruit bats of Guam. So this example is given in your do you know box. So fruit bats of Guam, so these eat only fruits. So most of the organisms which depend on fruits, they are called as frugivorous. Then question number 19, how do the biodiversity can be viewed and measured as? So the importance of biodiversity can be viewed and measured as a ecosystem services, biological resources, social benefits of biodiversity. So these are the points you have to write them. Then question number 20, define endemism. So it is an ecological state of a species being unique to a defined geographical area. Geographical area means a particular area, how special they are. Unique means special. So you can see those organisms in that particular area only. You cannot see those organisms in other areas. So that is called as the endemism, and it is crucial indicator of richness. So you can see a particular type of plant or animal in abundant in particular area. For example, if you take in the colder climates, you can see more coniferous, but you can't see ordinary mango tree or neem tree. Very abundant in tropical regions. Such plants cannot be seen in the polar regions. So that is how we can tell that what is the highly growing plant or animal in that particular area. So that is called as the endemism. Then question number 21, Amazon forest is considered to be the lungs of the planet. Justify this statement. So Amazon covers a vast area and sheltering millions of species, and moreover it has numerous plants which involve in reduction of carbon dioxide by photosynthesis. Hence it is called as the lungs of the planet. So the more number of plants are there in this Amazon area. So these Amazon lies in the Tropic of Cancer region in the South America, and this is the biggest forest where no people have been invaded there, but now that is also being lost because of the commercialness. They are cutting the forest and they are making that land barren so that they can feed the cattle. So most of the companies are destroying the Amazon forest. So Now that is also recently would have seen the fire burning in the Amazon forest in last year. We could have seen that one. So this is the most abundant area where most number of species are there and plants are also there. And question number 22, how is the international biome type is classified? So as per the international biome type of classification based upon climate, fauna and flora and the soil conditions. So we can tell a biome is an international based on the climate, fauna and flora and the soil conditions, how rich the soil is there. So these are the criteria for a biome to say it is an international biome type. Then question number 23, what do you mean by habitat fragmentation? So habitat fragmentation is the process where a large continuous area of habitat is both reduced in an area and divided into two or more fragments. So fragmentation of habitats like forest land into croplands, orchid lands, plantations, urban areas, industrial estates, etc. When we divide that forest land into these type of lands, then we call that type of changing the forest land into other types is called as the habitat fragmentation. Then question number 24, cite two examples which are occurred due to the overexploitation of the organisms. So example is dodo, passenger pigeon and stellar sea cow. So these are some of the examples which have become extinct in the last 200 to 300 years due to overexploitation of the humans. So we can see the diagrams here. So on the topmost left, it is the dodo bird, and which is being now extinct, and the other one is the stellar sea cow, this diagram which is now also not seen, and the other one is passenger pigeon. So this is also extinct. So we can see museums. We cannot see now in the wildlife where we go and see. If you want to visit also, we cannot see them. So that is, they have been extinct because of over exploitation. That means people started using them, killing them vigorously, that no organism is left in any part of the world. So that is called as, an organism is called as extinct only if you can't see a single organism in a particular place, or even in the whole world also. If you don't see one organism also, then we can tell that organism is extinct. Then question number 25, where are biodiversity hotspots normally located and why? So hotspots are located in areas where high concentration of endemic species experiencing unusual rapid rate of habitat modification loss. So what is hotspots means? Where we can see high concentration of endemic species. Endemic species in the sense where we have a very special type of species which are in the verge of dying, or where we have only less type of that organisms. So that is called as endemic species, and we are experiencing unusual rapid rate of habitat modification loss, and these are called as hotspots because that climate which once was very adaptable for many of the organisms, now it is not adaptable. So slowly those organisms are dying away. So that is called as the endemic species. Then question number 26, what are the drastic effect of climatic change and effect of biodiversity? So climatic change results in increases the land and ocean temperature, changes precipitation patterns and raises in the sea level, and this in turn results in melting of glaciers, water inundation, less predictability of weather patterns and extreme weather conditions, and outbreak of scalar diseases and migration of animals and loss of trees in the forest. So these are the drastic effect of climatic change. Question number 27, how intensive agriculture affect biodiversity? So intensive agriculture is based on only a few high yielding varieties. So this result in reduction of genetic diversity. Then question number 28, what are hotspots? So hotspots are areas characterized with high concentration of endemic species experiencing unusual rapid rate of habitat modification or loss. Then question number 29, define extinction. So species is considered extinct when none of its members are alive anywhere in the world. So that is called as the extinction. Example is dodo bird, passenger pigeons, all these are called as the extinct birds. And question number 30, what are scarecrows? A scarecrow or a scared woods are any group of trees that are special for religious. So for example, if you take the amla tree or some like a neem tree, these are all we are using them for, we are treating them as gods and we are protecting them and we are worshipping them. So such type of trees where a group of trees are grown and they are worshipped as a god. So such type of trees are called as scarecrows. And question number 31, who is George and why is he very much important to the people of Hawaiians? So George, the tree snail, that is Acanthella apex fulva, so died on the January 1st, 2019 at the age of 14. So he was the last snail of his species and is an emblematic of the loss of native Hawaiian molluscs. This is the last tree snail which was alive, and now we don't have any snails in that area. Then question number 32, expand the terms NTCA or IUCN. So NTCA means National Tiger Conservation Authority and IUCN means International Union for Conservation of Nature. Then question number 33, what is mass extinction? So the extinction of a large number of species within a relatively short period of geological time. So that is called as mass extinction. And mass extinction occurred about 225 million years ago during the Permian, where 90% of shallow water marine invertebrates disappeared. So this is called as mass extinction. Then question number 34, what is anthropogenic extinction? So anthropogenic extinction means the extinction of species from the surface of the earth, and it is due to human activities like hunting, habitat destruction, overexploitation, urbanization and industrialization. So these are some of the activities which are performed by humans which has made the organisms to get extinct. So examples of that is dodo of Mauritius and stellar cow of Russia. And 35 question, what is Red Data Book and who maintains it? So Red Data Book or Red List is a catalog of taxa facing risk of extinction, and World Conservation Union, which is in Morges, Switzerland, maintains this Red Data Book. Then question number 36, state the principle of or the aim of the Stockholm Declaration in 1972. So the natural resources of earth including air, water and land, flora and fauna of natural ecosystems must be safeguarded for the benefit of the present and future generations through careful planning and management as appropriate, and the principal aim of Stockholm Declaration in 1972. So why they have declared this one is, so if you don't save those organisms, then what will happen? We can only see in the museums or in the photos. So these animals were there like that. We can tell for the future generations. We cannot show them naturally. Then question number 37, what are protected areas? So these are biogeographical areas where biological diversity along with natural and cultural resources is protected and maintained and managed through legal measures. And protected areas include national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, community reserves and bioreserves. So these are the places which have been protected so that the organisms living in that areas cannot be killed. So it is not illegally, people will be punished if any organism dies in that vicinity of the areas where they are living. Then question number 38, define offsite collections. So offsite collections are live collections of wild and domesticated species in botanical gardens, zoological parks, wildlife safari parks and arboreta, that is gardens with trees and shrubs. These are called as offsite collections. Then question number 39, what are gene banks? So gene banks are a type of biorepository which preserve genetic materials, and seeds of different genetic strains of commercially important plants can be stored in long periods in seed banks. Gametes of threatened species can be preserved in viable and fertile condition for long periods using cryopreservation techniques. So that is called as gene banks. Then question number 40, what do you mean by co-extinction? So simultaneous extinction of two or more species where one is dependent on the other species. So for that example is Clavaria tree and the extinct of the bird of Mauritius island, the dodo. So dodo bird is extinct. So because of that, what happened? The Clavaria tree started extinct because the seed of the clavery is very hard. So that seed can be opened only by the when passing through the digestive system of the dodo bird. Since the bird is not there, so the clavery tree cannot germinate because of this bird extinction. So that is how, because of dodo bird is extinct, clavery tree also started extincting. Then question number 41, what is cryopreservation? So it is cold preservation technique for seeds of different genetic strains of commercially important plants. Seeds can be stored in seed banks. Gametes of threatened species can be preserved in viable and fertile conditions for longer periods. So this is called cryopreservation. What is cryopreservation? We have seen, we are in cryopreservation, we are making the organism to go to minus 196 degrees centigrade and we are preserving the organism. So that is how we can store the genetic material of the cryopreservation. And this is very important because we can do cloning for the cryopreservation in the future years if at all we want to clone the species. So that is the reason we are saving these genes in cryopreservation for a longer time. So cryopreservation is very, very important in our life because we can save the extinct organisms and in future also we can clone them. So I hope you are understanding all these 2 marks question till now what all we have taken. So please read these 2 marks questions because these only when we read most of the 2 marks, so most of the lesson will be covered and you can answer in the 5 marks and 3 marks question also. So that is how you can cover the lesson completely and you can write the exam very easily. So in the next episode, we will be seeing the 3 marks and 5 marks questions. So we'll continue in the next class. I think you have understand all the 2 mark questions what we have seen till now. Thank you.